Two Gals in Kentucky.
Hi, Joan. How
Hi,
you doing
Ellen.
today?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. Today, we're going to talk about 1, 2, 3. So, remember when we were kids and our parents told us and our teachers told us that there were certain helpers. And Mr. Rogers always used to say, always look for the helpers. There are always helpers. And so we learned that if there was a fire, we could call the fireman and he would come and help us and save our parents and our family and our sisters and brothers. And if we lost our sisters and brothers or our family, we could ask the policeman.
Mm-hmm.
If we were hurting or had a sore throat, we could ask the external helper, which would be the doctor. And of course, from the time we went to daycare or whatever, we had a teacher who guided us along the way to education. So we learned a lot from external helpers, and that's the way we started to grow. We had these community helpers. And then we had our parents, and
Yes. And our parents created the safe space for us. Our parents and our grandparents and our general community around us. They created the great space, that safe space for us.
yeah, they allowed us to grow, because if you have a
Yes.
safe space, you could talk about anything you want, you could do anything. You might get scolded, but you knew that you would always be loved. It was a very loving,
Yes.
if you, in the ideal world, it was a loving, caring environment. And then you had the superheroes and the magical creatures, which also played a role in childhood.
Yes.
So the superheroes would be kind of like
Superman and Batman and your
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man.
the Incredible Hulk.
Yes, and you're talking dogs and cats and Curious George.
And
the talking
unicorns.
monkey, and
All of those things kind of, you begin to think about as a child possibilities. You know, you don't want your kiddo jumping off a roof to be Superman or PJ Masks and running as fast as he can and over a building, but it gave you possibilities, right,
Yes.
Joan?
Yeah.
Yeah, it gave
the
you
possibilities
possibilities.
were endless.
Yeah. So now fast forward and we're all adults, okay? And we have a lemon. We have something that is adversely or negatively affecting our life. We're too fat, we're too thin, we don't have enough clothes, we don't have enough money, we have a bad relationship, our children are acting horrific, our little child is still, screaming and waking up in the middle of the night. So we have the 1, 2, 3. We have number 1, we have our lemon. And we have number 3, which is the solution, or making lemonade out of lemons. And so you need to work with that number 2 space. And what is that number 2 space?
That number 2 space is the mind space. It's the space in the middle. And everybody has their own way of processing. Everybody has their own individual number 2.
Right, exactly.
There's no cookie cutter for that. For me, I'm very fact-based. So my number 2 is always based on the present, the history, and the present. That's what it's always based on. How can I fix this? Some people create a safe space, an area.
An area, like a physical space. Like you'll say, okay, when I go into this room, I'm going to exercise. This is my exercise room. Nobody's going to bother me for a period of time. This is my space to do this. And when you're exercising and even making physical space in your body, you're actually having time to think through. So if your goal was you're going to get in shape, physical shape, so your blood pressure goes down or your heart rate goes down or you get thinner or more fit, that safe space that number 2, that physical space, is going to help you get to number 3. It's going to help you make lemonades. One of the problems is that you have to give yourself permission for that safe space. So there is that safe space, not only the permission, but it's a mindset.
Yes.
Right? So Joan has a great story about a movie that she watched. And the movie is about, it's a historical perspective and a learning perspective. And why don't we talk about this, Joe?
Okay, well, this movie is the Bee Movie. It's a movie Jerry Seinfeld did back in the early 2000s. And I have 4 grandchildren, and 4 out of 4 of my grandchildren have been obsessed with this movie.
It's a cute one.
So if I tell you I've seen it
4 times.
1,000 times, I would be underestimating it.
It's a good one.
And there's a part in the movie that I think really addresses what we're talking about right now. And that's when Jerry Seinfeld, or Barry the Bee, gets trapped in an apartment. He crash lands after he got hit by rain, and he bounces off a leaf and winds up in an apartment. And before he can fly back out of the apartment, they close the window. And so he flies at the window, and he bounces back off of it. What does he do? He keeps flying at the window. Maybe this time, maybe this time, maybe this time.
Remember that part of the movie.
And it's a very funny part of the movie.
Yeah, maybe this time, maybe this time, maybe this time. Yeah, it's true. And, it's kind of like, I remember when there was a time when I wanted to lose weight, and I would say, well, this is the weekend, and I'll just eat whatever I want on this weekend. I'm just going to watch movies, relax a bit. And then I think on Monday. But Monday became the following Monday and became the following Monday. So maybe next time. That's another way of looking at it. But this is all in that number 2 space. This is all in that space where how do you learn to mold that space so it becomes your own? I mean, it becomes something that you don't just go from one where you want to, you're sick, you go to the doctor, he gives you pills, he says, this will lower your blood pressure, but you need to exercise, you need to walk, you need to eat better, you need to lower your stress level, but you got the pills. So you figure, okay, I'll take the pills, you exercise for 2 days, and then you've pretty much taken responsibility away from it. You haven't created that space to think it through or to have some kind of a cue to make it so that it becomes your own. And Joan has a great one about weight loss when, there are the tried and true rules of weight loss. And what are some of them?
Yeah, well, we've talked about this a lot. I have gained and lost a lot of weight in my life. And historically, there's that word again, historically, I've lost weight through starvation diets, through fad diets. My children once reminded me that there was a period in time where I went on a Snickers diet, where I saw how many calories were in a Snickers bar. That was my favorite food. I figured out how many I could eat a day and lose weight, and that was, I actually did that. I'm not proud of it, but I actually did that.
Not sustainable.
Not sustainable.
But it was her lifestyle. See, now that's the thing too.
Yes.
It's not sustainable, but it was in her it wouldn't have been in my creative. I don't like Snicker bars. I might have chosen a different kind. But she was trying, even historically,
to make it my own.
To make it your own. And that's what has to happen in that space before you reach your goal. So if you say you're going to lower your blood pressure, or you're going to get over some sort of a thing, that space in there is your space. People can give you guidance of how it can work, but you have to make what works for you. People say, when you're losing weight, that you shouldn't eat at nighttime after 7 p.m. Or you shouldn't, right?
Yes. And this is what I would say, to expand on that making it your own part, making it your own is what makes it sustainable.
Exactly.
That's what you can do for the rest of your life. 2 examples. Many would say, well, the first thing when you need to lose weight, you need to exercise, wake up really, really early.
Get up, drink 8 glasses of water a day.
8 glasses of water a day.
Now, never mind that you have to go pee all day
Every
long,
5
and
minutes.
you're outside in a car, and it's during COVID, and all the toilets are closed.
Right.
Never mind that, you have to drink those
8 glasses of water a day. Or wake up at the crack of dawn. You've got to go then.
Exercise then. You have
run
to
to the gym then, or do your exercise.
If you don't
then.
exercise first thing in the morning, you won't
You're
do
not
it.
going to do it.
Yeah.
Not true.
Yeah, you got to make it your own.
You've got to make it your own. Or what Ellen was just alluding to. Don't eat after 7 o'clock at night, because you can't eat after 7 o'clock at night. It's not healthy, and that weight is just going to stay. Not true.
Well, you got to go another thing. I don't like to eat late at night, But I find if I don't eat all day long, I am, even if I eat, but if I eat small all day long, I'm starved at 7 o'clock. I've got to have something before I go to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Or I can't sleep. So I'm laying in bed saying, oh, my stomach's hurting. I'm growling. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So the next thing, once you talk about making that it your own, you also have to think about if you are a giver, if you are a mother, if you are a grandmother, a grandfather too, I would imagine, if you are someone who gives a lot, they need to be picked up at school. I'll go pick them up at school. They need to have food. I'll feed them their food. And you say, well, what I really want to do is I really want to work out at the gym, or I really want to paint a picture, or I really want to watch a movie. If you don't allow yourself that space to crystallize to number 3 so you can make that lemonade, you're going to be in a problem. And so you have to permit yourself, allow yourself, gift yourself that space.
Yes.
Okay? Because if you don't gift yourself that space and say you're worth that space, it's not going to happen. Joan and I talked, and Joan said to me about permitting herself to have your space. What did you say about that?
I thought this was
crazy when she said this to me.
So enlightening, because Ellen actually said to me, Ellen said that she struggles with guilt, that when she gives herself that time, she feels guilty about what else she could have gotten done in that
or
period
given to somebody else, or if I say
or done for somebody else.
That's right.
And then she said, how about you? And I said, I have no guilt. When I need that number 2 space, when I need that time to readjust my attitude and my expectations and my mindset, when I need that time to problem solve in here, I have no guilt about taking that time.
So I would imagine that there are people who are like both of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So from my point, I found a solution to that. And I don't always do it, but it works every single time. Like certain other things they're just givens. There's a man, and his name is Brendon Burchard, and I'm not promoting him, but he wrote a book called, it's the High Performance Habits or something. His name is Brendon Burchard. And one of the things is mapping out your entire day and actually how many hours there are in the day. What are the essential things? You have to go to the toilet. You have to drink a cup of coffee. You have to do whatever the essential things are. And then whatever is non-essential, prioritize, but allow yourself spots during the day, like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, to do something that will regenerate you or revitalize you. And I use a timer. Literally, I don't use anything crazy. You could use just the minute timers, the old-fashioned minute timers. And I'll say, I can take 15 minutes. I can breathe. I can watch a movie. I could think about things. I could go work in the yard or whatever. And when that timer goes on, I don't feel guilty at all. When it goes off, and if I go past it, I feel lousy. But it gives me the permission to have space in that number 2. And I'm sure if people are more like Joan, which we all wish we were, had lived our life that way. She's not totally that way though, Tim.
Oh.
No, she's not. She will say yes to her grandchildren as well. But she'll still try and get that space. Okay.
Absolutely.
So there's also a physical part of that space.
Yes.
And we talked about an actual physiological part of it. Remember we were talking about that?
Yes. And the physical space is, say, getting a massage to loosen muscles when you're tight and you're stretched. And that massage and those physical manipulations of those muscles, that will physically make you feel better. And that will physically remove some of that stress you're feeling. I have very bad arthritis and degenerative disc in my back and in my neck. I use traction, physical traction, and it separates those discs, and it not only helps the physical pain, but mentally, when you get that space, that physical space, and those discs are separated, it physically and mentally puts you in a better place, in a better head place.
Exactly. And they even talk when something is inflamed, or you have inflamed, if you have arthritis, something is inflamed, it's inflamed, and so it's not, it's going, you have to go like this to get from one tongue to the other, where if it wasn't inflamed and there was space, it's a straight line.
Yeah.
So now we've talked about number 1, which is your lemon, number 2, which is the space, and number 3 is moving into that space to make that lemonade, but to move it so it becomes your own recipe for the lemonade. And so you need a you are striving hopefully for some sort of a sustainability in that, and you'll have great successes and failures, but you always have to, if you've done number 2 correctly, if you've done number 2 to your satisfaction, then what's going to happen is you're going to be resilient. And so they talk about wood and metal, when they are faced with strain, they either stay the same or they break. Human beings, this was something from the 1800s during beginning of industry, and they said human beings have a third option. The third option in human beings is to grow and change. And so the word resilience, which is quite a buzzword now, is one that we do need to aspire to, because it's something that will allow us to grow and change. But you don't just say, I have a problem, and boom, this doctor's going to cure it for me. I'm going to grow and change, and it's going to become mine. It doesn't work that way. You are not going to solve your heart disease or your mental illness or your mental issues or your bad children. If you go from here, I'm going to spank my children and they will know what to do. No, it has to be something in that middle there that is very, very special and wonderful and makes us human.
Yes. Make it your own. Make it your own. And make the solution your own.
So, Joan, we both grew up in New York City, and I'm not sure that you had a stove like this, but remember the Pilot Light stoves? How did those work?
Oh, sure. Oh, well, I think we did all have a Pilot Light stove. Every stove had a pilot light, and the pilot light sat right in the center of the stove.
And it was always warm at that
point. It was always warm
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
And if that pilot light blew out or went out for any reason, then none of the burners on the stove worked. That pilot light kept the stove working.
It's that light inside you.
Yes.
It's that light that always has to be there inside you,
Yes.
whether it's rotten in a day or it's wonderful in a day. It could burn bright, it could burn really, really just about to go out, but that pilot light can't go out, and that's where number 2 is so important. So we talked a little bit, I was talking to Joan about some candles, and light are incredibly important in the world. And I read about at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, they have a light for the eternal flame, which is never put out. It's underneath the Arc de Triomphe. And I thought in my head, eternal flame. It's under the ground, it lasts forever. Well, no, that's not true. So if it lasted forever, it would kind of be like that wood and metal. But actually what the eternal flame is, at 6:30 at night, every night, a veteran relights that flame. So the sustainability of number 3 would be that light doesn't have to stay burning bright forever, but it has to, you could still relight the pilot light, and then you have food. Make sure be able to relight the fireplace outside to keep you warm. And so we're going to do one thing just about the end. Joan is going to light this candle just as something that we think about burning inside us, keeping us warm, giving us light. And I'm going to tell you two things. One thing, in Thailand, there's a holiday called Loi Krathong. And Loi Krathong is a wonderful holiday, and everybody loves to travel to Thailand. I was fortunate to live there for a long time. And in Loi Krathong, people build this little tiny boat made of banana leaves, and it's very small, and they put little flowers all around it, and then they put a candle in it, and then they put it out on the water. And that candle just burns until everything, the banana leaves melt and go into the water, and then eventually the candle goes out and goes into the water and nothing gets burned down. But it's supposed to make your wishes for the new year as we're coming up to the new year. And it's also supposed to let all of the things that are in number one that maybe were not so successful in my mind, they give you another opportunity for the new year to get to number 3 and make that lemonade. And we all remember that song. I kept thinking of it at night.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. So from the two gals in Kentucky, I'm Ellen.
And I'm Joan.
And
we'll
see you all later here. Next year. Okay, bye-bye.
There's a new day that will come again tomorrow. There's a new day to wash away